My name is Nadine, and this is how I found the truth. My mom is American, my dad is Middle Eastern. I grew up the youngest of 4 kids. Growing up in Jordan, I remember in school, our teachers would have us write verses from the Quran. I just remember writing it over and over again and not really knowing what I was supposed to be feeling because I felt nothing. And there was a curiosity there. There were questions, but the questions weren't being answered. Forgiveness wasn't around the house. Especially with my parents, they would get in arguments and fight and then hold those grudges against each other that next day. And as kids, you can sense it. You pick up on those things and you see, okay, well, they're not forgiving each other. Why do I have to forgive anyone that does anything to me? With my dad, his alcoholism, it was hard to see him at night when he would get so drunk, when he would just stumble, when he would mumble his words. And when he wasn't drinking, our relationship was fine. It was great. I was his little baby. He took care of me. But then when he started drinking, things just started changing. Because the next day he was so normal and back to normal and loving me, I never felt like I had to completely forgive him, but there was an anger that I held, an anger that I didn't even know that was there. And so my mom had convinced my dad for us kids to move to America with my mom. Once we moved to America, that's when I started hearing about Jesus. Just sparked curiosity, who is Jesus and why are all these kids talking about him? And I had made a friend and she would take me to church. The experience that I had with Allah seemed so just closed off and so scary. And then when I went to church, I was curious as to why these people were so happy and seemed so loving and so excited. At one point, I learned the Lord's Prayer, started to pray that every single night, along with the Muslim prayer. So I was praying 2 different prayers to 2 different gods. I just was confused. I didn't know what was going on, but I was very curious about Jesus. And, in all those years, I was just trying to find out what was real, what was true. And, throughout my experience in elementary school and middle school and high school, I had friends who would start talking about Jesus to me, and I would shut it down right away. I was curious, but then whenever they would start talking about Jesus, I just felt like my dad would not be proud of me. What kind of was stuck in my mind was my dad saying, "You're Muslim, you are, that's just who you are." So I look back now and I see all those times that God was trying to get in, and I just shut it down right away. And with my mom, when we had moved to America, she moved with us 4 kids, just her as a single parent, and my dad stayed in Jordan. She all of a sudden had a sense of freedom that she hadn't had while living in a Muslim country. And so, there would be days where she wouldn't, be at the house. My siblings and I just kind of had to, fend for ourselves. And, with my mama, and my siblings took care of me. I held a lot of resentment because I didn't know why she was leaving us. I just felt such shame. Why would she leave me? Why? What did I do? As a kid, what did I do? I'll change. I'll do whatever I can to stay home. And, fast forward to college. Freshman year, I met a boy. We just hung out for a couple weeks, and then he invited me to go to church. And I remember the first service just so clearly. I can see it. People are standing, they're worshiping, and it's just so uncomfortable. But I remember sitting down and just my throat just started closing, and I was trying to hold back tear. I was trying to hold back every emotion that I could. But Jesus was just drawing it all out. The pastor was talking about forgiveness, and it was in such a positive light. It was just in a way that I had never heard forgiveness talked about before. There were so many past traumas and pains that I had been hanging on to. What really, really hit me was forgiveness with my mom. Jesus can forgive our sins. And I can forgive her. And after that, our relationship did start to heal. It started to mend. My sister had done a Bible study with her was her now husband's grandma. So I reached out to her and I asked if she would do Bible studies with me, just one-on-one. She was so incredibly patient with me. I mean, with everything, with every question that I had. No question was dumb. No question was just like, why would you ask that? She explained every single question. During those Bible studies, I was learning about Jesus. I was learning, all the love that he had for us. But I wasn't necessarily, I guess, taking it and using it in my life. And I was still confused. I was still saying my 2 separate prayers, the Muslim prayer and the Lord's Prayer, all through my life. There had seemed to be a common theme of trying to find fulfillment in others. And I didn't have fulfillment in Jesus. And so I was seeking it in others. I was seeking it in, anything. My boyfriend, who I'd been with, the one that took me to church, we had been talking and it was just an emotional talk. And I just remember saying, I was like, I feel like I'm not getting enough. I'm just not getting enough from you. I don't have enough. I need more. And he just looked up at me and he said, I can't fill that hole for you. And I just remember feeling so confused, I didn't know why. And I remember leaving his house and I walked home and I was crying. I went to my room, I slammed the door, I jumped on my bed and I grabbed my Bible. I just opened it up and I just started reading. And during that time is when it hit me, it hit me that I was trying to find fulfillment in him. And he wasn't going to give me that fulfillment. And he knew that, and I was just starting to learn that. And as harsh as that moment might have been, as emotional, as hurtful as it felt, I'm so glad it happened. I'm so glad he said that. I needed that. I needed someone to say that to me. And, that was the moment that I surrendered my life to Christ. The days after that, my life started to change. I started to, learn to forgive my mom, learn to forgive my dad, and stop trying to seek that fulfillment in others. That next summer, I got baptized at the church that he had invited me to. Once I gave my life to Jesus, I started to see the fears starting to dissipate, and the anxiousness starting to dissipate, and my trust in the Lord has just grown so much. For someone who is still in Islam, I would say listen to those thoughts and questions that are happening in your mind. Don't think that just because you were born into Islam that you have to stay there. My dad, he would always say, you're Muslim. And I told myself, okay, yes, I am. I'm going to stop every opportunity that there is. Anyone who tries to talk about Jesus, I'm going to stop them. And once I finally let that one person in who introduced Jesus to me, my whole entire life changed. Really just go for it, act upon those thoughts and questions that you have, because, once you have Jesus in your life, it just changes everything.